Hello everyone, this is Piyush Lapsitwar, research technician with Perennial Wheat Program at the Land Institute. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to our colleagues who made these beautiful masks for all the Land Institute employees. So as you know, the mission of the Land Institute is to develop perennial polycultures, and perennial wheat is an important part of that. Perennial wheat is created by crossing annual wheat with their perennial relatives, which are various kinds of wheat grasses. As you know, wheat is a very important staple crop around the world. That's why it has been very well studied. It has a very huge and complex genome. That's why it was not until 2018 that we had a very good version of the whole genome sequence of wheat. And researchers around the world associate different traits of wheat crop with specific genes in its genome, like disease resistance, threshability, flowering time, etc. So today I'm going to talk to you about how we use DNA sequencing to use the resources to accelerate our perennial wheat program. Sequencing, we need to obtain the DNA, and for DNA we start with a young leaf tissue. We start with a young leaf tissue because such tissue hasn't developed thick cell walls, so we can break it easily and get to the DNA. To do that, we harvest the young leaf tissue in the greenhouse and bring it into this freeze dryer. What this freeze dryer does is reduce the temperature to minus 80 degrees Celsius and extracts the moisture at the same time. Reducing the temperature to minus 80 degrees Celsius helps to inactivate the proteins which might damage the DNA, and extracting the moisture makes the cell wall brittle so that we can crush it and get to the DNA easily. Freeze drying the young leaf tissue, they look like this. Then we add small BB pellets to these tubes and shake them at a very high frequency in this ball mill. What that does is it breaks the cell wall and makes the DNA accessible to us. We can also use liquid nitrogen to do all these steps, which reduces the temperature of the leaf tissue and makes it brittle. Have the leaf tissue ground into a powder form. We bring it to this chamber, which provides a sterile area for us to do rest of the steps in DNA extraction. So to extract DNA, we treat the ground powder with a solution of detergent and a salt, which breaks open the cell membrane and also deactivates proteins which might harm or destroy our DNA. After that, we use chloroform and then ethanol to separate DNA from rest of the cellular material and have it in a pure form. We use this heat bath and a centrifuge multiple number of times, and we end up with a translucent white pellet which we dissolve in water, and hence we have a pure DNA sample. Once we have our DNA in water, we want to check if it is contaminated with any protein. For that, we can use this UV spectrophotometer. Because protein and DNA absorb UV light at slightly different wavelengths, we can use this instrument to measure them separately and determine if our DNA sample is contaminated with protein. If so, we'll have to start our process from the start again. Once we know that our DNA sample is pure, we can try to measure its concentration using this fluorometer. To do that, we have to add a dye to the DNA sample, and that dye binds to the DNA and emits fluorescence. And by measuring how much fluorescence is coming from the DNA sample, we'll know how much DNA is in our sample. The purity and concentration of our DNA sample, we also want to ensure that our DNA molecule hasn't broken into smaller pieces because of the extraction procedure. For that, we use a gel. And a gel is a porous material through which we force our DNA molecule to pass through using DNA. And if the DNA molecule has broken into smaller pieces, it will be able to travel through the gel further, but if it is intact, then it will travel very slowly. So once we have run the DNA through the gel using this apparatus, we take an image of the gel using UV light and a dye, and the final result looks like this. So the DNA started traveling from top, and after running it is present at this bright tight bands, which means the integrity of our DNA is good. If this DNA molecule had been broken into smaller pieces, these bands would have been more fuzzy and more spread out. Once our DNA sample has passed the purity, concentration, and integrity criteria, we can send this DNA sample to a sequencing facility, which, after sequencing the sample, can send us the data back. Then we can use a bioinformatics software to look at the data. For example, here we are looking at a sequence of a domestication gene in wheat. This gene is known to affect many important features of wheat. One of them is threshability. From previous studies, it is known that at the position which is highlighted in blue, if the letter is T, that means this wheat will be easy to thresh. But if it is any other letter, it will be harder to thresh. So in this way, we have a better understanding of the trait exhibited by a certain variety. We could have measured the threshability of this wheat by actually threshing it, but without the DNA sequence, we wouldn't know why the threshability of this wheat is good. So by knowing the DNA sequence, we will have a better control on this trait, and hence we can keep this trait in our breeding program. Some of the phenotypes can take much longer to measure, like perenniality, disease resistance, or flowering time. Using DNA sequencing, we can predict these phenotypes in hundreds of plants in a much faster way. So DNA sequencing gives us a way to integrate acquired knowledge from researchers around the world about genes and their associated traits to accelerate our wheat breeding program. It is another tool in our arsenal to develop perennial wheat variety. So hope I was able to show you what we might be doing inside the lab when we are not out in the fields. Have a good day. Thank you.